Welcome to FBB Forum. My name is David, and this podcast is dedicated to all the amazing muscle ladies. If you like this content, please be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Instagram. I'm very pleased to welcome the stunning IFBB Women's Pro Physique competitor, Carmen Tocheniuk, to the podcast. Carmen is from Canada and has been competing in bodybuilding since 2002. Her most recent competition was the Atlantic Coast Pro in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where she placed in the top 10. Carmen also has her own DNA testing company and private gym, and her company is called Karma Life. Welcome, Carmen. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I didn't want to postpone this interview with you because of my bronchitis. So I just wanted to say that if my voice cuts out a little bit, it's not the interview.
You were just mentioning about having bronchitis, so I'm sorry about that. So you've had some bronchitis for a little while?
Yeah, the day I got home from the show, I came from hot weather to cold weather, and I decided to go out and sweep the front patio right after my cardio session in little shorts. And I just kind of was not thinking, and it got bronchitis right away.
Oh,
So,
no.
yeah, I think I'm almost over that though. So I'm feeling pretty good, other than my voice sounding a little bit choppy. So as I was saying, if my voice cuts out, it's probably not the internet. It's probably my voice cutting out.
Okay. No, you sound fine, though. I'm sorry you got bronchitis, though. Now, I was wondering, did you have an athletic or a sports background before you started in bodybuilding?
I sure did. I was into dance, and then I went into hockey. I played for Notre Dame. I played for Grant MacEwan University, and then I went overseas to play in Europe for a while.
Wow.
And I played on boys teams. Bodybuilding was kind of a natural fit for after realizing that I wasn't going to be able to be having a career in female hockey. So that's how I got into bodybuilding competitively. I actually started training though much younger due to a car accident. When I was 13, I was in a very tragic car accident with my mother on the way to the arena for a figure skating competition. Instead of a big coliseum, I was arriving in the ditch.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I wore a body cast for 2 years and had several other injuries. We'll have to do a whole other show on that some other time. However, that is how I truly got into going to the gym and realizing how important it is to maintain a good amount of muscle to support my spine. So I had 3 broken vertebrae and a full compression fracture in my spine, and several other things broken. But again, we'll go into that another time. But truly, that's how I got going to the gym and stayed committed to it. And then moving on after going to school and playing hockey, that's where I started my study of genetics.
Mhm.
And bodybuilding was a natural fit just to stay a little bit competitive. And I mean, my Baba was a diva wrestler in the 50s. So,
Really?
oh, yeah.
Wow.
So having strong women in my family was always, um, I was looking up to that. And I always appreciated how strong my mom was, my Baba, and all the females that I looked up to. And aside from that, there's many reasons why I love bodybuilding. So we could sit here for hours going on and on about how many reasons why I love it.
That's so cool. When did you do your first show? You mentioned you started in 2002, but your first show was in 2003?
Yeah, I have a great story about this. So um, I bought my first gym when I was 19 in Whitecourt,
Oh,
and what a town of maybe 10,000 people. We had 1,200 to 1,500 members all the time. So I had quite a support team there, right? Supporting me. And I was doing fitness because there was no figure, there was no wellness, there was no bikini. It was bodybuilding and it was fitness. So
mhm.
I was pretty tiny back then. And um, everybody was saying, oh, you should just do fitness because of your background and all of that. So I did my first show as fitness, and I was going to that intermediate beginner show thinking I was just going to win it all.
Oh,
So I had Oh goodness, probably 50 people there in the audience, and I was so nervous. I went
Wow.
out with a skipping rope to Rocky, the music Rocky, I the Tiger, and I was standing back there, and the lady, she kind of like nudged me and pushed me to like go out because I just wasn't going.
I understand.
Yeah, long story short, I took last place. So last out of last. And I just said, you know what? I'm not coming back to the stage unless I'm first place. So I switched over to bodybuilding. And from there on, I was first place many times. I was winning Canadian nationals as a lightweight, a middleweight. I competed as a heavyweight, but never could get the overall title in bodybuilding because I was always going up against, well, a gal that would be probably 50 pounds heavier than me on stage.
Wow. Wow.
When was created and designed for women in our sport, I thought, what a great category for me because I didn't want to get too massive and I wanted to stay competitive.
Sure.
So women's physique was a great category for me. In 2012, I downsized from heavyweight bodybuilding to fit into the women's physique category. And at that time, um, the judging criteria was quite different than it is today.
Yeah.
I remember it actually quite good because I had to lose so much size to fit into the category.
Mhm.
And any vascularity, they didn't want any striations. They just wanted a really nice streamlined body with muscle separation. So
Mhm.
that's got to the stage. I turned pro in women's physique in 2014. And then I've been competing in women's physique ever since.
Yeah, you look terrific. I was really impressed with how you looked at the Atlantic Coast Pro and just and I would definitely agree with you though that women's physique has changed a lot since
Mhm.
2012. I mean, it's certainly I would say more conditioning, bigger size now than back then.
It is very competitive. I mean, when I was on that stage looking at those girls, I was just so impressed with what I was looking at. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it was phenomenal actually to be on the stage with those women and just be competing in that category at that level is definitely a rush that most people never will experience. And I think that's what I love about bodybuilding and, well, women's physique is that it's so hard that I just love the challenge.
Oh yeah, it is. It's really I'm really impressed with you and all the ladies because you have to put so much work into it and so much work for just a brief moment on stage too. So but y'all look so impressive and you looked great. I really thought you looked terrific.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to see where we go next. I've got to still talk to my coach. I get coached by Chad Nichols,
Okay.
and him is my posing coach. So we've got to have a powwow and see kind of what we're going to do for the next year coming up. And it's always a balance between my business because bodybuilding's always been more of a hobby for me.
Sure.
I've never been focused on competing ever. And that's all I've ever really wanted to do. So, I thought I was designing a career where I could bodybuild and be competitive. So I started one of the very first meal prep companies ever in history in 1999
Okay.
and the gym. And then I owned a private fit and stay where people come and live in. And then I opened the very first ever in history DNA sequencing company for public use for health and fitness. And I was part of that group way back when, and now I'm one of two partners of this company. So, um, it, it's a lot of business. And aside, I do other things as well, but those are the main businesses that I really focus on. So, that's a lot. Pioneering a company that was never done before.
Yeah.
That's different opening a business where there's a handbook. No bank knew what category this fit in.
Yeah.
um, Nobody had a category for DNA testing and nobody understood it, so we had to plow through many different gateways to get to where we are today. And I'm really proud of what we have. We really focus on um, individual healthcare needs and targeted medicine, targeted health plans, targeted diets, targeted vitamin plans to lessen disease for people's future. So ultimately, when somebody knows their DNA architecture of themselves, a coach or your practitioner or yourself can make more insightful decisions as to how to support your weak genes. And that's really where my study has been in my practice, is not so much in the lab work. I'm not in the lab doing the DNA testing. We have all of our staff for that.
Mhm.
I'm in the practice of, what do we do when we see a weak spot in somebody's genetics? What is the solution to help that gene, support that gene so that we live longer, happier, healthier, sexier, more fit, lessen our injury prevention for athletes, and live longer with less chronic pain, disease, and illness. And that's ultimately what I'm very passionate about doing, is bringing DNA testing to all the coaches in my industry. So if I had a crystal ball and my dream, I would be giving all the coaches and trainers certification program, which is in place. We have that, and it is accredited. I would coach the coaches and trainers and practitioners how to incorporate that into their company.
Okay.
And that's really the balance. Like, so, balancing bodybuilding on top of that, when I'm doing 2 hours of cardio a day and I'm training and I'm posing and I'm eating in between, like, that's a pretty tough balance. So I've
Mhm.
dedicated the last 2 decades to business and bodybuilding and family.
Wow, that's terrific. Yeah. Yeah, so your DNA company probably predated like 23 and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we're a little bit different than 23andMe. We're in the business of helping people. I think they're in the business of collecting data. And
Mm.
being that we're in company, we're privately held and privately funded. We do
Mhm.
not data, and we're very cautious on that information, because we're not in the business to share that information. We're truly in the business on empowering, coaches, even hormone clinics, doctors, people like that, that really truly want to come up with a better solution of preventative care for their patients and clients.
Mhm.
And it's pulled out a swab actually to show you. This little
Sure.
swab shipped anywhere in the world. So we ship this, and
Okay.
then 2 to 4 weeks for our lab to sequence that. And we have a very good backend system that creates a very comprehensive, very readable report. So
Oh,
you would
wow.
be able to read this or have us help you to understand it. But it's,
Wow.
it on grade 3 students. So grade 3 students can read this and understand what it's saying.
Wow.
So
Terrific.
yeah, it's everything from understanding simple things like, should I have more salt or less salt? Should I have more protein? Here's another one, like, what kind of prescription drugs suit me best? So, like, if somebody is wondering things like, what kind of antidepressant they should be on, what kind of hormones they should be on, even if Tylenol or Advil is better for them, let your own DNA tell you that answer
Mm.
before we start doing things causing side effects. And to me, what side effects means is we turn down DNA regulation. We don't
Mm.
want to do that, because
Mhm.
we want to do all the things in our um, early years to try to keep all of our regulation working and functioning correctly. So it could be a simple thing like, maybe I should have a low carb diet. Maybe I should have a high carb diet. Maybe healthy fats aren't good for me. Like, there's all these things that we go into. So, ultimately, my career really did go way further than what I ever expected. I thought I was going to be a gym owner and having a family in a small town. I, that wasn't my calling.
That's terrific, though. I think the business sounds great, and I'm going to make sure to include a link to your business, in the comment section too, if people want to check it out.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, Karma Life is more of my private brand for DNA and services of everything I do.
Yeah.
And we have a corporate brand, which is more for other coaches and such. And that is for DNApower.com.
Okay.
And there's 2 sites, but again, I really promote Karma Life just because I want people to see more of a personal view of who I am and how I can truly help people, rather than the corporate look.
Sure. I understand. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your competition and competing, and I was curious, uh, at the Atlantic Coast Pro. what was your experience like there? And did you enjoy it? And like I said, I was glad to see you compete again too. You looked really good.
Well, thank you. You know, okay, so I have a few things about this. Competing used to be very hard for me because I would go in really dry, not eating. I had some great coaches back in the day for 10 years, Brian and Donna Loeb, but their diet was very hard.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
it was, I, hey, if anyone can do their diet, you can do anything in your whole life. So I working with Chad Nichols now and Kim, I go into the show. It's hard the second and third week out. That's where I really got to push myself. But the week before the show, Chad's so good. I mean, my goodness, I'm feeling like I could go run 100 miles on the day of the show. So I truly enjoy the show days so much now, full of
Nice.
energy, talking to everyone. And I stand backstage and I almost cry going up those stairs because I just want to get out there and pose and present, and I don't want to get off the stage.
That's terrific. That's great. Yeah. Kim
And
is
speaking
kind
of,
of okay.
yeah, speaking of Chad, my experience this time, um, I wanted for the first time ever to go and see how hard is bodybuilding really on me, because normally I would go for blood work about 3 months after a show, and we get everything like organized and kind of get into an off season. But this time I flew home and went right for my blood work, and I wanted to see, really, how dangerous is bodybuilding for us girls. And
Yeah.
surprisingly, my blood work came back better than ever.
Hmm.
I actually was thinking, because I'm getting older, and I was thinking, well, maybe I should really focus on business and not be so competitive. And I was maybe looking for a little bit of an out for maybe seeing some bad blood work. But I get it back and I'm like, oh, my thyroid's better than it's ever been in my life. My my, my hormones are totally balanced. And I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, Chad knows what he's doing.
That's terrific. That's really good. And of course, Kim is, Ms. Olympia. I mean, she's kind of amazing too. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great to get to work with her, I bet.
And I'm very privileged to be working with Chad. It took me 10 years to get on his roster. I kept emailing him and asking to be coached by him, and he wouldn't even respond. Actually,
Oh,
I was like, how come he's not responding? And and then finally I just put one more email out there and I said, okay, are you ready to coach me yet? So I've been with them ever since, and got through COVID, and now I think we're just kind of getting really competitive right now. I feel like I'm gonna peak here this year. My mindset, my physique, and also my competitiveness and my support around me is really good. So I feel like this is going to be a pretty competitive year for me, probably the most competitive year coming up.
that's great. That's what I wanted to ask you next is, where do you hope to compete next, if you can say? And I'm sure you'd probably come back to USA to compete, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, and I want to support the Canadian shows, of course. I just have to sit back here for about over the holidays. I'm taking my mom to Mexico for stem cell treatment, and then we're going to Fernie for a family Christmas. And I just want to get home in the new year and make a business plan around it. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that everything aligns. I just don't want to pick a show and kind of wing it. So this year I want to be very strategic about what shows I'm doing and how they line up with everything else going on in life. Because last year I missed family reunions, I missed birthdays, I was missing so many things, and I didn't like that. So this year I want to put a little more thought into that for the next year.
Sure, I totally understand that. That makes sense. Um, um, I was curious in terms of you talked about working with Chad Nichols and the fact that he's a really good coach, but I was wondering if you could give any advice to aspiring pros who are looking for a good coach.
Oh, for sure. It really comes down to who's going to motivate you, who are you going to want to impress, and who are you going to like stay on track for. Um, Working back in the day with Brian and Donna, I loved them so much that I wanted to do good to impress them, because I had so much respect for Donna Logue. She was a pro bodybuilder, and Brian was just such a good coach too. And they were such a good team. And again, maybe there was other better coaches out there, who knows, but I won with them how many times because I worked hard for them. And I think it's important to find a coach that also, at this level, really considers your health
Yeah.
and your family life, really considers your mental health. So for example, with Chad, the first thing he asks is, how's everything in my life, and how's my support system? And like, we talk about those things to make sure that everything's in line, so that we don't just competing can take away a lot from people that way. So I think there's that aspect. And then like I said, a coach that you're going to want, it comes down to motivation. Who's going to motivate you, basically? Who's going to get a little fire under your butt to, go a little bit harder?
Sure. I remember Donna Logue. I remember she was quite a good competitor, and she was she competed back in the 90s, I believe, didn't she?
Yeah, I started working with them in 2003. Actually, the lady that I mentioned that pushed me out on that stage was Donna Logue.
Oh, really?
She wasn't my coach yet. But I remember her just like, and I actually tripped over the skipping rope, and I'm like, oh no. It's funny stories, but that was Donna, and she did compete. She was a very good competitor and a very good businesswoman. I think she's probably one of the only business women that I know in bodybuilding that back then that truly made a true business for herself, from bodybuilding.
Really? In
There
terms
was
of
no
coaching?
yeah, in terms of coaching, and
Hmm.
they have very good coaching business. Mm-hmm.
I guess even back then, I guess I don't know, how was it even common to have a coach? It seems like maybe that came out, later in the 2000s, I think, where there was a lot of people starting to coach bodybuilders. Is that right? Or was there several coaches back in the day too?
No, there wasn't several. Brian and Donna were definitely leaders in that, up here anyways. I don't know what it was like down in the United States, but certainly here they were paving that road for everyone. And a lot of coaches followed their footsteps.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow.
a lot they trained, made entire businesses for themselves. So Brian and Donna Logue really truly helped a lot of people, not just win a few bodybuilding shows. They truly help people learn how to build an entire business. They certainly did that for me. They
Great.
taught me to use my bodybuilding career as a springboard, because they said, Carmen, you're not going to make money in bodybuilding, but you're going to make a lot of money from the trickle down effects of it all. And that's truly what they taught me, was to, of course, use every opportunity to present who I am and how I can help people. And that's what I'm about, is introducing who I am and how many people I can help in my lifetime. At the end of my day, I don't care how many followers I have on Instagram. I don't I don't like when people introduce me and say, that's Carmen and she has 20,000 followers or whatever, or so and so. It bugs me how people get introduced nowadays. It's like your value depends on how many followers you have. And I'm like, I'm introduced and known as, that was Carmen, and she helped a lot of people,
Yeah.
really.
Uh-huh. I think I totally agree with you on that. And yeah, there is a little too much emphasis on social media, which I sometimes call anti-social media, because it's, it's almost a little bit antithetical to being social, and it's I don't know, it's a little addictive. It's probably not good for anybody's mental health to spend too much time on social media.
Well, we're in a day where it's necessary. Like everything else, we gotta roll with the punches. We gotta change as the times change.
That's true.
Um, Certainly, I just think we got to be, like you said, you just got to be a little cautious around it and not get totally consumed by it, and not value yourself on how many likes you have, or how many followers you're getting. Like, people paying for followers and paying for fake things and all that. Like, just be you and be true. And um, I think that's just the way to be.
I like that. That's good advice too. Um, Now, I was wondering, we had mentioned earlier, but in terms of the interview here, where do you live in Canada, and do you have a supportive bodybuilding community there?
Oh yeah. Okay, Alberta has so many bodybuilders.
Really?
And yeah, so I would say that hey, it's winter, so what else are we gonna do? We all go to the gym. Unless snowshoeing, ice fishing, cross country skiing, downhill skiing. uh, there is so I live in Edmonton, Alberta, just outside of Edmonton, a little town called Devon.
Okay.
And I have 30 of really nicely treed property here. And this is where I have an outdoor training facility and a massive indoor private gym.
Mm,
So I position myself very close to the city, but just outside far enough so that you feel like you're secluded and you have that peacefulness without all the city busyness.
nice.
And as far as the gyms in Edmonton, I mean, there's the bullpen. There's a new gym that just opened up called the Den, and the Den is a very good bodybuilding mecca right now. There's, the guys are doing a great job with it. I personally really enjoyed way back when actually I started doing videos in like 2007, and I started doing my videos at the bullpen gym, and it's a hardcore gym. Even though I have my own gym, I still love getting out and seeing everybody and getting dressed up to go for a workout date or, meet my girlfriends. And I think that there is a lot of support here if you want it. It's not something that's just going to naturally be like, oh, we're just supporting Carmen. You've got to get yourself out there and build your team too.
That's true. I can see that too, where it's nice to get to the bullpen and even socialize and yeah. How big is Edmonton metro area?
Well, I think it's about 1 million people, and then there's
Oh,
a surrounding small towns. The town that I grew up in is an hour and a half northeast west of here,
okay.
so it's not even. As a kid, we'd always be coming into Edmonton for the big events and things.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good sized city too. Yeah.
I
Um,
love. I am so lucky where I live. I live by this big river valley that's huge, like valley, and there's stairs everywhere. There's paths everywhere, and Devon is a small town, so I kind of like that feel where I can have the city if I want it, but for the most part, I go to Devon because everything I need to do is in one block.
oh yeah. I bet it's
Yeah, the milk
beautiful too.
store.
Is Alberta's a big oil province, isn't it too?
You're right. Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
very driven in oil and industry. Um, yeah, we grew up in a. That's actually what Whitecourt's all about. Is it's an oil town.
Oh yeah. Oh, very cool. Yeah. We're running a little low on time. I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions. I was going to skip down a little bit. I was curious if you were in a leadership position with IFBB, what would you do to improve the sport of bodybuilding, and how would you try to make the sport better?
Well, I actually have a few really good ideas. I've thought about this for many years, and I may not share it just on this show, but the main thing is judging criteria. I think that, especially say for women's bodybuilding or any category, I think it needs to be very strict so that judges aren't awarding what's not supposed to be, so that it keeps women and men in that, I guess, in that category. So it's not getting too extreme all the time.
Mhm.
And um, my dream, of course, for the IFBB, because let's face it, all these influencers influencers that are pros are influencing the entire fitness industry in some way or another,
Mhm.
and had a little more regulation in that. I
Hmm.
wish that more regulation, because we have a real industry now. Back in the day when we started, this was just for fun. I had to give away free training at my gym that only cost $20 a month. I had to say, I'll give you free training if you sign up, because I mean, personal training wasn't even really a thing back then.
Mm.
Uh, so I've seen now we're a real industry. This is a real business. This is a real job. And, if you compare that to a welder, a baker, um, even like every single industry out there that has a trade, has some kind of regulatory standards that they need to adhere to.
Yeah.
So that's what bothers me is here I am with a real medical DNA testing company, that we've got a lot of backing with us. And it's just, when you go into the fitness industry, it's almost like this big smorgasbord of everything. Nobody knows what to believe or not to believe, what coaches are doing, what coaches aren't doing. This could be a full on conversation for sure, because I have had a lot of conversation over the last 2 decades about having, again, a little bit more of a regulatory board or some kind of system in place. Like I say, every other industry has it, but not the fitness industry. It's still the wild, wild west, and kind of whatever goes, goes.
That's a good point. Could you see like maybe like a state licensing kind of thing or more certification?
I would say a certification for sure, but more of a standard, like almost like a seal that you get that you're in good standing. I'll give you an example. Like, for example, if you pay a coach $5,000 and they just take your money, who are you going to call? Like, you're not
Hmm.
going to sue them. Who are you going to complain to? You're going to call Ghost, like, you know? Yeah. Or, it's almost like the Better Business Bureau. They have like a seal. I think if we had a seal where all the trainers or coaches could be recognized for being in good standing, they have proper insurance, they have proper education, they have proper etiquette, they don't have any real complaints about them, things like this. I think there's got to be a place where the customer can go and also the trainer can go. Just recently, well, not last year, I heard that there was a lot of trainers starting to do home visits for training, and actually there was a lot of things going on with that were not good.
Hmm.
And I think that the trainer also needs a place to say, hey, this client or this guy or this girl or this person, this happened. This there was an assault when I went to their house to train them, or whatever it was. Like, there also has to be a place like saying, hey, this client owes so much money they're not paying. We had to sue them for their money. Or, I think that there could be a two-way street and a hub that help to manage a little more regulatory in the industry.
We're about to run out of time. I want to thank you for your time, and we'll have to do a part two, I think. But thank you so much, Carmen.
Okay.
We'll get this posted relatively soon.
Okay.